Thank you everyone for being here. As you're settling in, we just want to thank everybody who has decided to spend time with us this afternoon. We appreciate you very much. Welcome everyone. My name is Leni Manaa-Hoppenworth, and I'm the co-founder and co-coordinator of Indivisible Illinois. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm so excited to welcome you to the very first Illinois Convening. We will be taking screenshots momentarily, so please get out your favorite buttons or Indivisible swag. And we want a group photo of our very first Illinois Convening together. Next slide, please. As a woman of color, a second-generation immigrant, and a mother of three, I did not know what was in store for me under a Trump presidency. But what I found unexpectedly was a life-altering opportunity. I found my people, I found my voice, and I found reasons to step up and create the community I wanted to see. And it's how I met friends like Annie Williams, Scott Cross, Rose Colasino, and many of you who helped out and helped put together this incredible event today. We came marching on Washington, DC in January 2017, committed to resisting an administration of hate. We found a blueprint in a Google document co-written by Ezra Levin and Leah Greenberg, and this eventually became known to us as the Indivisible Guide. We found inspiration in a long history of Illinois organizing and were empowered to follow in the footsteps of women such as reproductive justice organizer and civil rights activist Heather Booth. And I personally found mentors who helped orient me to this lifelong fight for justice, including union and community organizer Jackie Alty. So today we thank our event partners, including and especially Illinois Poor People's Campaign, Indivisible National, and also Words That Win. And we thank many Indivisible group leaders from across the state who collaborated together on this incredible half-day event. Please look to our resource page to connect with these awesome leaders, and we'll have somebody put that into the chat. So we're going to look forward to having a chance to get to know you in our breakout rooms later, and also in our post-event happy hour. I wanted to point out a very important update, because this morning we got word that our keynote speaker, Reverend William Barber, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, his flight schedule may unfortunately prevent his attendance by video, but we will keep you posted on any changes and hope safe travels for the Reverend. And so with that, I see we have so many people still joining us on Zoom. And so please look to the chat and tell people where you're from. So as I said in the beginning, we're going to take a screenshot. So please, as you're getting ready and pulling out your buttons or any kind of swag that you might have at home, just a few reminders. So please, as a reminder, we prioritize respect, inclusion, and nonviolence in our work towards building progressive change. And regarding the chat, it will be moderated. We are recording, and parts of this meeting will be live streamed on Facebook at Indivisible Illinois. So please like and follow our page. We thank you for your patience as we work through any technical issues. And also, please take care of your bio needs. Take breaks as needed. We hope that you stay for the whole thing. Also, take stretch breaks. It's very important for us to take care of each other as we take care of ourselves and each other. Okay, so moving on, everybody have your swag. We're gonna stop screen share and we're gonna look to the whole Zoom. And if you want to be included in our screen share, I wish that we could be together in person. Unfortunately, no, that's not gonna happen for us today. So we are going to take a picture because we know if it's not documented, it didn't happen, right? Yes, here we go. We're gonna take a couple screenshots here. So it looks like 4 pages. So this is the first one. Oh, now I did something really weird. Oh, we can't see, that's okay. Bring yourself close to the screen. I love all of your signs. Thank you so much. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. That's number 1. We're gonna take 3 more. 1, 2, 3. 2 more. 1, 2, 3. And the last one. There are a lot of people on this call. 1, 2, 3. Oh boy. Thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to pass it to my co-leader of Indivisible Illinois, a co-founder and co-coordinator, Scott Cross from Indivisible Springfield. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Leni. Welcome, everyone. My name is Scott Cross. I'm co-founder, state coordinator with Leni and Rose. Just wanted to welcome you all today and just introduce an exciting guest that we have today. Of course, it's our founder for Indivisible, Ezra Levin, and he's a political activist. He's co-founder of and executive director of Indivisible. He's also the co-author of We Are Indivisible, a blueprint for democracy after Trump. So we're excited to have him join us today. Ezra, welcome.
Great, thanks, Scott. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Scott and Leni, gosh, what a long road we've been on together now. It's been a long 5 years. I was thinking about how to open this up, and I was thinking back to the big Chicago convening that y'all helped put together. Gosh, it was maybe 3 years ago in the lead up to the 2018 election. It's just been, we've been building for justice for a really long time together, and it's just a joy to be here. I wish we could be in person, not just for the pizza too, just to hang out too. That would be great. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going. Isn't that always the subject? About 5 years ago, next week, Lee and I were pretty aghast at the current political situation. It wasn't just that Donald Trump had been elected, although that was a big driving force. I think the thing that shocked us were these 2 interviews that were back to back. One was from an incoming Trump appointee. He would indeed be appointed. He actually resigned in disgrace, as so many did later. But it was an interview with this guy who was talking positively about the Japanese internment camps during World War II, as an example of what we might do with Muslims and refugees and immigrants. And then within 24 hours of that, there was an interview with incoming Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in the New York Times, in which he said, well, we lost the election. These things happen. It looks like we're going to have to work with the other side. Maybe we can work with Donald Trump on infrastructure. That was the orientation of the Democratic Party at that time. And that was shocking. That's why we were gassed. That's why we were terrified. And it's why we sat down to write the Indivisible Guide right after Thanksgiving, because it seemed quite likely that as of the end of 2016, America's likely future would be one in which the bipartisan agreement was that the roads to America's internment camps ought to be well paved. And that was shocking to us. This is why we wrote the Indivisible Guide, to say, no, that doesn't need to be our future, that in fact, we can say no to that future and we can organize locally. And we started doing that ourselves, reaching out to our friends and family members to try to figure out what to do. And Indivisible leaders who would become leaders of these powerhouses started doing that too, reaching out, gathering people in your living rooms, meeting in church basements, forming what started out as small groups that grew to be larger groups, that grew to be statewide coordinating structures, that grew to be a nationwide force. And in 2017, what we did was we beat back the top legislative priority of this unified conservative government. We saved the Affordable Care Act. In 2018, we built this big blue wave, and Indivisible Illinois was a major part of that. Y'all replaced 2 crappy Republicans with Kasten and Underwood. In 2019, we made Donald Trump the first impeached president in nearly a generation, the 3rd in all of US history. In 2020, we grew the Progressive Caucus in the House, and Illinois had a major role in that too. You replaced that fake Democrat Lipinski with Marie Newman, who has been absolutely critical in the fights in the House all this year. And what else did we do in 2020? I feel like there was something else. Right, we contacted tens of millions of voters all across the country, from Arizona to Wisconsin to Pennsylvania to Georgia, all over the country, and made Donald Trump the first one-term president in a generation. And we didn't stop there. We didn't stop there. Indivisible Illinois didn't stop there. Indivisible Nationwide didn't stop there. We ran through the tape. There was a special elections in January, on January 5th in Georgia, and Indivisible groups across the state of Georgia and across the country contacted as many voters as we could, even though the general election was over, to try to get those 2 Senate seats. And we succeeded. We won a Democratic trifecta earlier this year. And on that day, literally on January 5th, we launched the campaign to save the democracy, to pass what would become the Freedom to Vote Act, the For the People Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and DC statehood, because we knew this was our opportunity. So why did we run through the tape? Why are we still running right now? It's because look, Donald Trump's election was, of course, the precipitating event that led many of us down this path 5 years ago. That's what started getting us all together. But the reason why we are still building power, the reason why we're still actually running is because we knew then and we know now that Trump is this particularly bad symptom of a much deeper sickness in our society. If we had an actual functioning democracy, Donald Trump wouldn't have been within spitting distance of the White House, let alone been allowed to remain in office for 4 years while he spent every single day trying to break down norms and dismantle the rule of law. The problem wasn't just Donald Trump, it was the system that we're living in. And I think we all get that. And that's why we're here 5 years later, not talking about some Google Doc, but talking about the power that you all have been building over this time to change what's politically possible. And that's why at the heart of what Indivisible is this radical idea that I've talked to you all about before, that in a representative democracy, your representatives ought to represent you. And if that's our radical idea, the reactionary idea on the other side isn't just a cult of personality around Trump, although it is that. Their reactionary idea is that we shouldn't have a democracy, that we shouldn't have a republic. And they demonstrated that throughout the Trump presidency. They demonstrated again on January 6th when they stormed the Capitol. They demonstrated again every single day when they refused to hold accountable those Confederates. And forget even holding accountable, they kick people out of their party who won't embrace the big lie that the election was stolen. And they demonstrate this not just in what they say, but in their actions on the ground. We all see this day to day, week to week. Any place the GOP has control at the state level, from Arizona to Texas to Florida to Georgia, they are enacting voter suppression laws. They are enacting gerrymandered maps, and they are passing laws to not just make it harder to vote, but to subvert the elections themselves so they don't have to care about the popular vote. And they're doing this in broad daylight. They're doing it in broad daylight. Now, I know things look dark right now. This is a full-scale attack on the American people. It's an attack on women. It's an attack on Black Americans. It's an attack on Indigenous Americans. It's an attack on young Americans. It's an attack on people who are living in cities. It's an attack on people who are organizing for justice in rural areas. Hell, this is an attack on their own damn voters because they are spreading lies about the COVID vaccine that is killing them off. So the good news here, and this is good news, it was true in 2017 when we fought for healthcare. It was true in 2018 when we built the wave. It was true in 2020 when we defeated Trump. The good news here is there are more of us than there are of them. There are more of us than are of them. So our challenge right now is not to persuade those Confederates to come over to our side. Our challenge is to mobilize to win. That's what our challenge is. There are more of us than there are of them. When we show up, when we demand that our representatives represent us, we win. When we show up, when we go and contact tens of millions of voters and actually get them out, we win. If every single Joe Biden voter shows up next year, we win. We win the House, we win the Senate, and we're on the way to win the presidency again. So this isn't about one degenerate former president. It's not about one issue or one election or one specific candidate or one race. This is about the Republic. This is about the Republic and whether we organize to keep it. And so, look, that's why I'm proud to be here with y'all, because you have been organizing to keep it for 5 years now. You understand the moment of history that we're in, and you're organizing to change what's politically possible. That's what today is about. That's what you've been doing for years now. And that's why I'm committed to doing everything I can to help Illinois Indivisibles across the state and at the coordinating structure level build the power we need to win. So Leni or Scott, with that, should I pass it back to y'all?
Yeah, thanks. You know, one thing I wanted to say is it's crazy when you think about the news lately, because lately, Ezra, the news is talking about the Democrats a lot, but what the news isn't really talking about is the fact that, you know, authoritarianism. Why aren't the Democrats throwing up anti-authoritarianism like legislation, so that the focus of the media is about that and they can actually talk about what's happening? It seems like there's kind of a disconnect with activists and things that are happening in the party at times. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge disconnect because much of the media treats this as, well, this is politics as usual. You know, the Democrats are debating this bill or the Republicans are filibustering that bill. But what we're in right now is not a typical debate over what happens legislatively. It's about whether we have a representative democracy or not, whether we can agree on what reality is or not. So here's what I will say. I'm hopeful that if we get through the president's Build Back Better agenda, I expect there to be a vote this week in the House, and we're hopeful that we'll get a vote in the Senate relatively soon thereafter. I'm hopeful that then there will be a pivot directly back to the debate around democracy reform, which is not just a debate about legislation. The Freedom to Vote Act would undo much of the voter suppression that's being pushed throughout these states, whether in Georgia or Arizona or Texas. It would also implement anti-election subversion provisions that would prevent them from just throwing out the vote in Georgia if it's a really close election in 2024, or in Arizona. These are good things that should be passed, but fundamentally, it's not about any individual provision. It's about whether or not we have a representative democracy, which I think, Scott, you're exactly right. That's what we ought to be talking about. And up until this point in the year, we have been fighting that fight on the ground. There were more than 375 events nationwide back in July during the Deadline for Democracy campaign. And after that, right now, this week, we're seeing events across the country telling the Senate to prioritize filibuster reform and get these democracy reforms done. The Senate is on our side. Chuck Schumer is actually with us in this fight. He's not always been with us. He's with us in this fight. Nancy Pelosi is with us in this fight. Joe Biden hasn't been, not because he disagrees with us on the issues, but because he's prioritized the economic agenda. Now, that wouldn't have been my priority. I think democracy is more important than anything else, but these are the cards we were dealt as activists, as people fighting for democracy. So in order to get Joe Biden on board with this fight and have the full pressure of the Democrats, from the president to the House to the Senate, we got to get through this economic agenda. So then Biden will come to the table and actually start fighting. And because we are close on the Build Back Better agenda, I'm hopeful that that is days or a couple of weeks away. But I 100% agree with you, Scott. I think there has been a disconnect, and we really desperately need to close that gap between the activist base and the folks in charge, because if we don't now, we're going to run out of time.
Yeah. Great. Leni, you have a question? No.
Ezra, how is Leah doing and your beautiful family? We are so thrilled to see your family is growing, and we wish that Leah could be here today too. I still remember, that first time that Leah came to visit us in Chicago, and really just wanted to know what we were all about and what we were prioritizing. And that is really the basis of what we do in Illinois, is to figure out where people are. And when you talk about this disconnect, it's exactly that. But there is such a huge divide between, what we're talking about on the ground here and what is happening in DC, which goes back to the original intent of the document. And so can you just remind us of like 3 things that we should be thinking about moving forward, that Indivisible wants to just remind us, no matter where you are, if you're in Illinois, in Chicago, in Virginia, in West Virginia, what is it that we can be doing and thinking about as we're moving forward to 2022?
Yeah, well, right now in this very moment, there is nothing more important in my mind than getting a combination of the Build Back Better agenda passed and the Freedom to Vote Act passed, the democracy bill. So what does that mean for people who are actually on the ground? You've got 2 senators who are on the right side of these issues, right? You've got senators who actually would like to vote for these, have said positive things about these. So what do you actually do? Does it feel like you're just spinning your wheels? And we get that question all the time. We get the inverse of that from our folks in Texas or Louisiana or elsewhere, where they have Republicans who don't give a damn what they think. If you are in a blue state, or if you've got 2 blue senators, one thing you can do on democracy right now, I don't know if everybody knows this, but your senators care what you think because they care about their own reelection. That is the theory of organizing under Indivisible, that you have power in Illinois with your senators because they are eventually going to have to go back for your vote. So the question is, how do you express that in ways that they're able to digest? Now, the other thing about senators or members of Congress in general is they have an attention span that's roughly 60 seconds long. If it's not directly in front of them, if there's not a vote coming up or a speech they got to make, then it's going to be very interesting, but they're not actually going to act on it. So every Wednesday, the Senate Democrats have a luncheon. Every Wednesday, they have a luncheon where they get together with all their Senate colleagues and they talk about the issues of the day. One thing that you can do being in Illinois is on the Tuesday before or that Wednesday morning, call into your senators and say, hey, I know you got a luncheon Wednesday afternoon. Are you going to bring up filibuster reform, and are you going to bring up democracy, and when are you going to pivot to it? It's a concrete thing. The fact that that action is happening within the next 24 hours means it's something that's super actionable that they can do. It's healthy for them to be hearing, so that in that meeting, when Schumer brings up, hey, we really want to turn to democracy, then there are more folks saying, yeah, I'm getting a lot of crap from my constituents on this too, so we got to do it. Don't underestimate the importance of being a pain in the butt. That is useful. That is really useful. And being a pain in the butt at the right time, that's excellent. You really want to focus on that. Now, if you're in a red state or if you're in a red district, there is work for you to do too. This applies less to Illinois because much of the fight here is in the Senate, but we are working with our red state indivisible groups to demonstrate Republican intransigence so that when Schumer tries to push Manchin and Sinema to come to the table and they say, well, why aren't you putting pressure on Republicans? We'll have the receipts and we'll be able to say, we have been pushing Republicans. Look at what we're hearing in Texas. Look at what we're hearing in Louisiana. Look at what we're hearing all over where there are Republican senators. They're not coming to the table. They're not engaging. This is on us to do. Is that going to be enough? I don't know. But what I do know is when I talk to my the Senate allies that we have who are on our side, who want to see this get done, the thing that they ask for is overwhelming sense of urgency and sense of salience when it comes to this issue. It needs to be felt on Capitol Hill and in the media system that people are actually watching this and caring about it. So that's where your calls, that's where your actions, that's where your op-eds, that's where your earned media events, that's where they come in. And I would timing wise start thinking about sometime after Thanksgiving, we'll see an opportunity for filibuster and democracy reform. So in your planning, I would start thinking about how are you best going to get the attention of your senators and make sure that they know that they've got to respond to you.